Hello, hello, good afternoon, and welcome from a very hot and very sunny South Africa. I'm your host, Priscilla Gendron, and you have joined us on Psychic Talk. Joining me today are two absolutely amazing special guests. Our all time favorite, of course, is Mr. Leo Bonomo, and he's been on several times on our Psychic Talk. And also joining us, and we were just discussing it, that it's our anniversary because this time last year, she was on the show as well. So I said to her, happy anniversary. So it's our beautiful Leanne Barefoot, the Barefoot Medium, all the way from down under in Australia. So welcome, Leanne.
Thank you, Priscilla.
And welcome, Leo.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
I could go on and I could rabbit on about these amazing people, but I'm going to actually leave it up to them to just chat about themselves. And I'm going to sit back and listen too. So I hand the floor over to the amazing Leanne. Hi, Leanne.
Hi, Priscilla. Thank you. So I guess I'll introduce myself firstly for those who don't know me. I'm a international medium, twin flame, transformational coach and author from Brisbane, Australia. I have travelled, but not in the last couple of years. I am in Australia, where we are a big, massive island, and we're all stuck on it, and no one can get out or in. But we've come through the last couple of years pretty unscathed compared to most people. So, international medium. I love connecting in with spirit and passed over loved ones to support people to reconnect and heal and get messages from the other side. That's my passion. That's what I love, and that's what I'm here to do. I also have done some training and lived in South America, in Colombia in particular, and done some training with the Indigenous over there and use some of that work in my transformational coaching and help people to shift through limiting beliefs, fears, blocks, resistance that might be coming up so that they can manifest and create the life that they want for themselves. So that's another part of the work that I love doing. So that's a little bit about me.
And you also do a podcast as well, if I'm not mistaken.
I do. I have a podcast show that I do once a month, which is Barefoot with Spirit, where I have guests from all over the world come on, and we just do authentic conversations about various topics, all things spirit. Shoes are very much optional. I do all my work bare feet. It's so much more comfortable. So all things love, relationship, mediumship, psychic, intuition, manifesting, all of those things. So in the last 2 years through COVID, I've been also studying and doing my PhD, which I'm incredibly excited about, and has been incredibly challenging while working at the same time. But it brings in my mediumship with my previous life as a lecturer at university. So combining those things and my background in criminology. So I'm really excited about that.
Oh, that's amazing. And so what is the PhD about?
It's actually how mediums can work with police in cold case homicide investigations.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's always fascinated me.
Yeah, so it's some pretty big work, and bringing the spiritual and mediumship to a bit more mainstream, I guess, in those areas that we know mediums do work in and psychics do work in, but very much kind of in the background. Yes. So what I'm aiming to do is build a bit of a framework for mediums to work with if they're wanting to work with police, and also for police to use if they're wanting to work with mediums, so that, that brings a bit more credibility to the industry. And, a lot of psychics or mediums, unfortunately, contact the police with very random pieces of information, and it doesn't help police, and it certainly doesn't help family members who are going through grief and loss and trauma and all of those things. So
yeah, but it also doesn't help the the family of mediums. Do you know what I mean? Because we've always been tarred with a certain brush, and I think that it's been, moviefied and Hollyfied, and it's all this woo-woo stuff. So the fact that it's becoming a lot more mainstream, I think, has been very important for everybody.
Yeah, and I think what's and spirit always leads us to where we're meant to be, right? So
Yes.
for me, I started my yes, I've connected to spirit and been a medium my entire life, but I haven't stepped into working with it professionally until later in life. And I did psychology, criminology through uni, and I taught at university as well. So I've got that academic background that tends to lend itself to bring a bit more credibility. Yes, I'm a medium. I've also got this. So, it allows me to talk to police and family members in particular from a different space, not
Yeah.
just I'm not just a psychic or just a medium, like unfortunately we can be seen like that at
Yeah.
times.
And we were just talking about that recently, about being labeled, and having these labels and what they actually really specifically mean, because they don't actually, they limit us in a sense of what we can actually achieve as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like I'm sure both of you have had a journey with spirit, and it's still unfolding every day. We think we know what we're here to do, and then we get more information. It's like, oh, okay, we're going down this path now.
Yeah.
How cool is that? It's like a big jigsaw puzzle, right?
Definitely. We go around the corner and it's like, okay, you get slapped in the face by a fish, So yeah, it is
Yeah,
very,
so I'm incredibly excited about that work, and it's been a little while coming. So COVID has allowed me to take the space to step into that.
and if I'm not mistaken, were you also doing some written work as well?
So some written as in magazines and that
Yes.
sort of thing. Yeah, I've written for a number of magazines in Australia, the US, and the UK as well. So I've done quite a bit of work in the last few years, and it's kind of hard to keep up with sometimes. But I
Yeah.
love writing. I love sharing what I've learnt along the journey. And as you both know, being a psychic or a medium or an intuitive or a healer or whatever you want to label yourself as means also working on yourself personally. And,
Very much so.
I love to share what I've learnt personally along that journey, because the more balanced we are personally and the more we've worked through our own stuff, and we all have stuff, exactly right, the better quality medium we are, because we bring that balance to our connections with the other side.
Yeah, very, very much so. And it's so important. And haven't you also found that over the last 2 years that the way you work and the methodology that you've been using has changed, because we had to go online a lot more than doing in-person work?
Well, I was very lucky. I flipped over to online 5 years ago. So I moved from Australia over to South America for 3 years. So I moved my entire business and my readings and my teaching online prior to that. So when COVID hit, it was nothing new for me. So
Yeah,
I'm really grateful for that. Whereas everybody else kind of had to do a quick, sudden
quick
shift and
switch.
learn about technology and how to do all of that. So
Yeah. I mean, I did
yeah,
the same. I was in South Africa, and then I went to the UK, and then I came back to South Africa. And you always, you do have that little bit of trepidation when you are uprooting your life, thinking, okay, can I still maintain my integrity? Can I still maintain my client base and things like that? And it's so easy. It's how everything just flows, because if they need you, they'll find you.
exactly,
Mm.
exactly. And, I think that for me personally, the online space makes it a lot easier for me. I know for a long, long time I worked with clients face to face, and, I'd have them coming into my home, which was okay. But I think we also need to keep that space for ourselves
Yes.
sacred, and some of that balance again, right? So
Yeah,
For
very
me,
much.
I actually really enjoy the online space because I do get to connect with people all over the world and
That's it.
reach more people, and Spirit sends you who you need.
Very much so. And I think if we hadn't had this happen to us, none of us would have ever connected, because we wouldn't have reached out or had to create a different platform to allow ourselves to grow and spread
Yeah,
the word in a sense. So
exactly.
that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So without leaving our dear Leo out,
That's all
I
I
hand
know.
the call over to our Leo because he's a firm favorite. Everybody always asks about Leo and when's he coming back.
Oh,
So
bless.
I'll leave the floor to you, Leo.
Well, I think for any newbies, this has been. I was being interviewed last night, and the words that sprung out kind of, sometimes when we're talking, we listen and we think, "Oh, that's a good idea," because it hasn't come from us. We're just sort of listening as well. And what came through last night was when I was first born, I wasn't very happy to be here. It was that kind of, oh, here we go again. I don't want to be here. Let me go home and that kind of thing. And at 2, I saw my first spirit, and the words that came through last night was there was a reuniting, a reconnection with spirit at that point. And I heard myself saying this and found that quite interesting because I've never explained it like that before or had it explained to me to mention. So a long connection with spirit. Like you, I've embraced working online. I first started working online in 2005 for a company doing readings. And it's been a blessing because like this, it's allowed us to reach many more people than if you just do a church, and there's, I don't know, 50 people there or whatever. So that's been a real blessing. And being able to adapt to that, or in some cases, if we've worked the churches heavily and COVID's come in, being forced to adapt to that, I don't think has actually been a bad thing. I think it's one of those situations where, because there's a whole shift worldwide and so many people are having experiences of all kinds, whether it's near death, whether it's just exploring sites where people have had similar experiences and have similar expectations. It's allowed this to grow massively, and I feel very privileged that we can allow access to people to explore that part of them. Because as you both know, we go back 20, 30 years. We often couldn't tell people what we did. If we went into a doctor, and said, I do hear voices, you can see them reaching for the phone. So it's the whole thing's expanded, I think, in a beautiful way, because there's that wave of light, or as people join, kind of encircling the globe. So that's good. I love teaching. I knew from a very young age that I was meant for something. It wasn't quite given to me at that point because I might have run a mile, so born to do this, and teaching and passing on that knowledge is a wonderful thing for me. But also passing on the knowledge in the readings, So that's something that I'm constantly surprised at when people get back to me and say, this was said or that was said, or didn't make sense, researched it and found it's true. So very, very privileged to be doing this work and anything close to it. And this particular time is so unusual in Earth's history. And the next 30 or 40 years are going to be absolutely transformational. And we've chosen to be here, all 8.5 billion of us, for very good reasons. And so there'll never be a time like, there hasn't been a time like this before. There will never be a time like this after. So it's like someone's just said to me, it's like the gathering of the clan. You know, we've all come here, and it's right, lads. Roll up your sleeves. Let's get going. So it's wonderful to be a tiny part of that.
Amazing. And also, you also do have a radio show as well in Las Vegas on K-Core Radio.
Yes, it's based in Las Vegas. It's I'm very privileged. It's a wonderful station. It is only supernatural stuff, and so there's I think there's about 35 hosts, something like that. Incredible people, very talented. So it's a real privilege to be part of that, and it's gaining popularity. I think I've been there about 4.5 years now, and it's in 106 different countries, and they have a listenership of about 3.5 million at the station. Not my show.
We wish. We'll send you blessings for that.
It would be great. Yeah, it would be great. You know, and again, it introduces people, like this. It introduces people from all over, whatever kind of niche they feel they might be part of. You know, because sometimes in a niche you think it's very small, you know, and that you're the odd one out. And then when you listen to shows like this, you realise, you know, there's millions of people out there that feel the same. And so it's always a privilege to be interviewed.
Yeah, you're not the weirdo and the odd one out.
Yeah.
And then
Well, I don't know about that actually, but anyway.
I don't mind being weird.
No.
We're the weird club long ago. But then also, Leo, you're a published author.
Yes, yeah, I've been very privileged with that. My first book, I can be a bit thick, so spirit will waken me up, you know, and it's exactly that scene in Ghost, you know, I'm Henry VIII, I am, because it's going to carry on till you give in, and that's basically what happened. So they will wake me at night. I used to do automatic writing, but I was fairly conscious of it. So they would write stuff on a board, and I would copy it, or they would tell me, and I would write it down. And so that kind of started, and all I was getting was the first few lines of a sentence, maybe, or a paragraph. And it took me about 3 months to think, do you know, I'm not going to get any sleep. I'll just start writing. So I began writing, and it turned out to be my first book, Summerland. And in total, it was about 3 years. There was about a year's gap. But in actual time, it was about 3 months. And so they would wake me up and I'd start writing and then completely pass out. And they brought me round and I'd read back what was written. And sometimes it was quite a lot, you know, 5-6 pages of A4. And other times it was just a paragraph or so. And I didn't realise till the end that it was a book. Which you know, was as much a surprise to me as anybody, and I only got that hint when the last line was written, and I heard, they woke me up, and I heard very clearly, "That's it."
That's the end.
That's it. Yeah, and I'm thinking,
after.
yeah, I'm thinking, that's it. What, you know? And they said, add it to the others, which I did, and then started to read it again, and totally amazed. Oh, it's a book. So that was an interesting experience. I think people are under the misapprehension that because you are sensitive, that you know everything, you know, or you click your fingers and you have access to that knowledge. And it's really not like that at all, is it? And I think for myself, doing readings, I am really in the dark, and I don't mind that. But sometimes it does surprise me. So that's what happened. And that was actually completed in 1987. So it took a long time, 2014, to get published when the time was right. But I've got a new book out now, which I don't have. Yes, I do. That one, The Voice of Spirit. And It's a very different book. It's been a lot of work because a lot of it has been conscious and researching and doing that. So it's taken a much shorter time than 30 years to produce. But I'm very privileged to have written it with a lot of help, obviously. And it's an unusual book because it's about direct voice mediumship and a gentleman in particular, Leslie Flint. And I was amazed in going round to the churches and asking the chairperson or asking mediums that I met there, about Leslie Flint. And so many had not heard of him, which is an absolute travesty. And I was privileged to have sat with him once, and that itself just absolutely blew my mind. And so I've been an advocate of his since then, since 93. And Spirit said, you need to write this book, this needs to get done. And so that's come forward. And again, it's another example of being kept in the dark. There was so many delays with this. There was delays over about 2.5 years. And some of those delays were very interesting because I was sitting down thinking, why isn't the book finished? Why are all these blocks? What's preventing this? And someone, I don't know who, just came very close to my ear and said, why don't you get it tested? And my first reaction was, great idea. Why has nobody else done that before? And so I got it tested at Primo Forensics, and they came back after testing. They're a highly respected company. They've worked on the JFK case, the Boeing 370, I think, that went down and was lost. And they've worked on major cases throughout the world. And they came back with a voice trait confidence on a blind test of over 99%,
Wow,
which is
amazing.
fantastic for Spirit, and for the public, because I think with all the belief, it's nice to have a bit of science behind it.
Yeah.
And so, so I'm very, very proud to produce the work.
And that sort of really leads into what Leanne is doing as well. She's putting the science behind her work, just as you have done as well. So, because sometimes seeing is believing, but sometimes we need the proof. It's the doubting Thomases, in a sense, that need that extra bit of scientific proof to actually validate what they're actually seeing or hearing or understanding.
And I think the other important aspect of that is that however much you experience, and I think we do need to be skeptical ourselves, to a degree.
Yeah.
And with whatever we believe and we've seen, it is nice ourselves to get that backup. And that backup comes really in two forms: that we have something for our own belief, but also, when you're speaking to people and they'll go, well, it's a bit of rubbish, and have a look at this book and there's proof. Because as we all know, the way that Spirit work is they plant that little seed. And as soon as we've got that, whether we dismiss it in life, when we pass over, it helps us to adapt to, going home and understanding. So I think it's very important. And the work is definitely going towards a more scientific basis, not just with quantum physics, but
Yeah, and I think it also leads for us to be able to be validated in a sense with our work, because we've all had this uphill struggle to be validated and our voices to be heard. What do you think, Leanne?
And I think just following on from Leo as well, I think the science, like you're saying, Priscilla, is that, from a criminology perspective and policing perspective and from a medium's perspective, it's actually all about evidence and proof that the soul continues after we leave this earth. And that's what a medium's job is to bring through the pieces of information or evidence or fact that demonstrates that the soul continues after we go. And, you know, I think a good skeptic keeps a good medium in check, because if
100%.
and as a medium, we have to keep learning and growing and expanding our own awareness so that you know we can open up to bringing that evidence and fact through, whatever that looks like, sounds like, or feels like, and to just allow whoever it is we're reading for example, to have that connection with their loved one, because what we're doing is bringing the essence of their loved one through again for them to be reunited, reconnected, a little bit what you were saying, Leo. And, you know, there is science there. There is science behind energy and, you know, what we do. And it's good to be humble and to keep ourselves in check in amongst it.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Because
I think.
Sorry, Leo.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, because I just said, you know, it just takes it the fact that a lot of people out there give mediums or psychics a bad name because they just open their mouth and just spew out stuff that actually is not validated.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And as you know, Priscilla, that's one of my pet hates. You know, and I've seen countless mediums do it. You know, they go to a 70 or 80-year-old woman in the audience and they go, "I've got your mum here. She sends her love." Yeah, I mean, it's nice as a sentiment, but it isn't evidential. And if you think about the history of mediumship, and some of the older mediums, and some perhaps more up to date, you know, like Gordon Higginson, who's passed, gave fantastic evidence. And it's the evidence that counts, not for us to be validated from an ego point of view, but to know we're hitting the mark, you know, because I know the way some mediums are trained, they start hitting the mark and I think, that's it, I'm a medium. And they don't try anymore. You know, they believe that I have a connection, that's it. And it's important to keep pushing that boundary ourselves and asking for different types of evidence, because I firmly believe that's what keeps us going. You know, if we keep missing the mark, then, you know, we lose heart ourselves. But I think for people to understand the evidence that's given, to understand the message, and often it's the very subtle nuances that come through that absolutely hit the mark. You know, and it can be just a throwaway remark at the end of a reading, but it makes that connection. And I think once people have had a reading that's evidential, especially if it's their first, it makes an impression, and that's why they keep coming back, and then they're learning more and more. And so I think the emphasis has changed really from, here's some evidence, it is real, thanks, okay, I'll go away, never come back. You know, so I think the emphasis has changed a lot, and people are really hungry now, you know, especially
more than ever. Over the last 2 years, it's been more than ever that people are coming and looking for different answers. You know, truth seekers in a sense.
Absolutely, and I'm sure you've found this where people are asking more questions and more in depth. It's quite nice that, you know, Uncle John came through. People are now saying, great to hear from you, Uncle John. What is it you're doing? What's it like there? So the whole emphasis of this has shifted. I think it's a brilliant thing.
Very much so. So I've put a little thing up. Put your questions in the chat if you'd like Leanne or Leo to answer a question. And while we do that, I just want to give you both a sort of minute or two just to take us into 2022. So Leanne, what do you see for us for 2022 in terms of what Spirit guidance is giving you?
Well, I think we're all ready to take a big breath, to be honest, in 2022. And I think that, with the two energy that the next year brings is, and I've mentioned it a few times tonight, which is interesting, is the balance. So I'm really picking up on next year is about balancing that inner and the external world. And I think the last 2 years of really picking up on what you were saying as well, Leo, really invited people to go within and dig deep into what their purpose is, why they're here, what they're passionate about, and what they value most in life and what's most important, and to start walking a path in that way. So I think 2022 is about really grounding that in and really finding a balance between the personal and the spiritual, and the personal and the professional, or the whatever it is that you're there with. And relationships are big next year, and all about connection with those that are really important to you. And I think in the last couple of years that's really come to the forefront for everybody, no matter where you're located in the world. I think that there's been so many people so much differently challenged by not physically connecting, yet knowing we're connected. And I think 2022 really allows for those reunions, the reconnections, the really grounding into who you want around you and what you want to do in life and be in life. So
sorry.
I'm loving the energy of 2022, to be honest. I think there's still a little bit of a shift in the first part of the year, still a bit of transformation coming. And the quicker you do your inner work, the easier it'll be.
Very true.
Absolutely. I know that 2022 is a pivotal year. It's absolutely transformational. And it's interesting how spirit use or influence situations, because obviously I don't know how either of you feel about COVID and that. Basically, it's a big hoax, and it's manipulated. And we've had so many contradictions with, like, you must stay indoors, you've got to do this and that, and then the advice comes out, oh, you need plenty of fresh air. It's all contradictory. But one of the things I think governments in their conspiratorial way have missed is that if you are going to meditate, if you're going to go into yourself, then you tend to need to be alone. Now, you can't truly be alone in a house, with 15 kids, whatever it might be. But lots of people have kind of inverted. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. It's given a lot of people time to think. It's also because they have access to the web. It's given them time to research. And I think, ironically, because of the media being influenced, people have decided that they need to look elsewhere for news. So I suppose, in essence, what I'm saying is the whole thing has backfired enormously. So I think that's going to change in 2022. The fact that more people, in a spiritual sense, have woke and have been confined to home, and therefore the web is something else that's backfired for them. And we all know, if I think the figure is, if we have 1% of the world connected to light and praying for light, it's a small percentage, but it can tip the balance. And I know that that's working for us next year. So next year is a really, really hopeful year. Lots of people are now adding 2 and 2 together. They are connecting more to spirit. And again, in a kind of ironic way, with the people that have passed, and it's still 1% of the population on average throughout each country. So that hasn't really changed very much. But because people are focused on it, they're also focusing more about the tragedy of that passing. And I don't really mean the tragedy of that person per se, but the fact that you couldn't get to see them in hospital, you couldn't go to the funerals at first. It's made people focus on that aspect of life, and that is ever helpful to mediumship and to bringing light into the world. So it's a completely different aspect, and I think that that's tipped up. We are going to have a lot more spiritual disclosures, more programs bringing evidence. It's really something to look forward to.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I think that it's also allowed us to offer the peace and closure that so many of these people didn't have when, losing their loved ones in such a traumatic way. Because it's like, I need to say goodbye and I didn't get a chance to say goodbye. So you don't have that closure. So you keep wondering. Yeah.
And you have that curiosity. And again, because so many people on the web are, whether it's just idle curiosity or not, are finding programs like yours, they're finding sites. And again, it's feeding that. So people are learning in a spiritual sense a whole lot more in the last couple of years, and that's going to continue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the other aspect for me is, and it's picking up on a little bit around the political, I guess, side, is that I think in particularly the first part of the year, we're going to see a lot more of, as my cat joins us, we're going to see a lot more of the crumbling of some of those structures, which are, from an energetic perspective, more that masculine structure of control and, the action and the doing and the, making things happen, into that beautiful switch to that more feminine intuition, connectedness, the spiritual side, which is, the compassion and the empathy. And I think that, the biggest gift that I could say for anyone to focus on, no matter what your beliefs are around COVID or whatever, is just focus on empathy and compassion.
Yeah, very much so. And it's important because next year, 2022, is a number 6 year, and that's all about female mother goddess, the feminine energy, and it's about bringing that kind of energy and compassion into the world. So it fits in beautifully with what's going to happen and how things are going to transform. So, okay, we have time for just one or two questions. Okay, so Suki has asked, would love to know the direction of my spiritual work in 2022. So I'll leave that to Leanne, and then Leo can have a chance after that to answer.
Yeah. Okay, Suki, I feel like I want to say to you, the first thing that I want you to do is breathe and not worry so much about the direction, and allow spirit to show you and allow it to unfold. I already feel like you do your spiritual work. And it feels like we're in the head around how do I need to do more and be more and put more out there. It's all about being. And you're a healer at the end of the day, and you're here to bring healing to those that are drawn to your work. I do also want to say to you that I feel like you need to bring in teaching if you're not already. You need to start teaching and guiding and mentoring others, however that works for you. So I feel like the direction of your spiritual work will unfold naturally. Don't push it, don't force it. Allow spirit to show you and just be open to teaching and guiding others.
Amazing. And Leo?
I hope that helps.
I can't really add much more to that. I think it's absolutely perfect. And when I was trying to sort of do perhaps the obvious thing, and I was being shown a torch in a cellar, and I was trying to narrow the torch down to find something, Spirit kept turning it round and just widening the beam. So I don't think it's so much finding a particular focus. I agree with what Leanne said. It's just being open and letting that happen and letting that flow. You do lots of sterling work. And I think part of being a good medium, a good psychic, and a good teacher is allowing spirit to guide that. When I used to teach, unless they said, next week we're doing flower reading or something like that, I had no idea what was happening. So I'd get there and the circle would start and someone would say, right, we're going to do this. Fair enough. And off I would go. And I think from that aspect, it's really important to let spirit guide you, as Leanne said, rather than say, what is it I feel I'm drawn to? But I'm not sure what your guide looks like. I just got the word guide for you, and this is a gentleman, and he said, just allow, I think you said this, Leanne, just allow yourself to be and allow yourself to be drawn to where you need to be at that particular moment. But you're doing great stuff.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys. Right. So we have a little bit of a competition, as I normally do on my psychic talk. So if you would like to win a free 30-minute session with either Leo or Leanne, please just put a number in the chat box and we will choose a winner. We have already chosen 2 numbers. So everybody jot away and put your numbers in the chat box. So while we're waiting for that to happen, she says, thank you, Leo. Bless you both. So she's very, very happy with that. And you're right. She is an amazing human being, Suki is. Okay, so put some numbers in the chat box, everybody. And then we will choose. And while we're doing that, we can just have one more. And this is from Vanessa. And Vanessa, she says, I'm getting a notion to help cancer patients. Some guidance here, please. 2 weeks after this intuition, I heard of an aunt of stomach cancer. So, Leanne, would you like to take that? Her name is Vanessa.
Okay, Vanessa, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Vanessa, I'm picking up on a little bit of confusion energy, and I'm going to acknowledge that first. And just ask, I kind of feel like I want to say to you, you already connect to spirit, but it feels like we are not really acknowledging that in some way. And so spirit's coming close to you, whether it is a member of your family or not. And I feel like I want to say there's an older lady around you that is on your mum's side of the family who is connecting and guiding you. Whether she had an issue with her stomach or not, I don't know that this is connected to the work that you're being guided to do. You are definitely a healer. You are definitely being asked to, and I'm seeing you in a nursing setting because I'm seeing the outfit. And that's just the way my guides are giving it to me. So, Vanessa, I would say, yes, there's a healing aspect to it, but there's still some confusion there about the right path for you. So I just want to say it's not the right time to make a decision, is what I'm feeling for you. So just be patient. And I really dislike using that word in readings.
Yeah.
I'm just hearing really clearly, be patient, because I'm seeing that you're in this zone of needing to get more information, get more clarity, get more guidance. before you step into making a decision. So I'm not sure that the work you're talking about is quite right. It feels like we've got a slight shift there with it before it falls in place. So just be patient and it'll come.
Leo?
Hi. Hi. I've got a slightly different angle to Leanne. And the reason that I was nodding away quite vigorously there was hospice was actually being given to me because you can volunteer. And what I think is pretty clear is that Spirit have been priming you about cancer, cancer patients, and doing that work. And I think that signal was because of your aunt and bringing that connection. And I think, sometimes it's easier when we start a particular line of work to have people who are open and friendly. And for you to have this connection with your aunt and for her to be open and you to be comfortable with her, it's a great starting point. And as my guide was speaking about that, he said, people often volunteer at hospice. With some hospices, you can be more open if that energy is there, that a lot of the workers are connected in that way. And you find an awful lot of nurses and doctors admitting to that now. And of course, when certainly in hospices, they know, they've a very good sense medically of when that person's going to pass, but they have lots of experiences. And my guide was reminding me of that. So I think to maybe look at that when you feel comfortable would be a good idea. But Spirit are priming you for it. And to me, that's much better evidence for you, rather than coming to me and, I say, well, you're going to work with cancer patients and this and that, because at that point you might think, it's not really what I want to do. I'm not interested at all. But for Spirit to communicate that directly to you underlines the importance. But they're drawing you into that slowly. So I think it will be invaluable for you and invaluable for the people that you touch, including your aunt.
Yeah, because thank you so much, Prissy. You have worked with me, so so yeah, we've known each other for a long time, Vanessa and I. So everybody, where's the numbers? We're waiting. Put your numbers in the chat, and then we'll choose two people at random. And so while we do that, we're going to just wrap up. So I just like last words of wisdom from Leanne.
Last words of wisdom. I guess my words of wisdom for everybody would be just to breathe and be present and just, allow yourself to acknowledge all that you've achieved within the last 12 months, and I want to acknowledge the last 12 months in particular. And I feel like as we come towards the end of the year, we often focus on that newness that's coming, but we forget sometimes to acknowledge what we have achieved and to be grateful for what we've managed, particularly in amongst the global changes and transformations and shifts and things that have been going on that everyone has been impacted by. So I would invite you to breathe, to pause, and really acknowledge 3 things that you've achieved this year, whether it's just to be more present with yourself, whether it's to be more connected with family, whether it's an achievement work-wise or, healing-wise, or if you've finally addressed starting your own business, whatever it might be, or connecting in with Spirit, just acknowledge that as an achievement. Because I think we can be incredibly tough on ourselves sometimes. And these are very rare times that, we're here on this earth, like Leo said, for a reason at the moment. And so trust that you're here for a purpose. Trust that you're here to impact and touch from a loving, connected, joyful space everyone that you come in contact with.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And same for Leo.
Yeah, and mine is very, very short and sweet. I got taken back to 1969 and 70, flower power, the hippie movement. And I saw this guy step forward, long beard, long hair, obviously a hippie. And he just said, go with the flow and just where you're drawn. So simple as that. Short and sweet, I hope.
Short and sweet is always good, isn't it? And so, right. So everybody's been putting numbers in the chat, but nobody has hit on the numbers we've chosen. So I will just choose 2 people at random, and ones that haven't won anything before. So I would like to say that Vanessa, you have just won a session with Leo. And Suki, you have won a session with Leanne. So congratulations, guys. I will get your details to both of them, and they'll be in contact with you for your free 30-minute reading. So that's fantastic. Brilliant. So it just leads me to say, well, thank you very much, guys, for joining me. And it's just been an absolute pleasure to share this space with you and hopefully continue to share space with you in the years to come. So any passing words, goodbyes, and thank you very much for joining me. So, Leanne,
thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a privilege as always, and light and love to everyone. Bless you.
Thank you very much. And Leo is always a regular. Whenever I need a guy, just say, Leo, get on the line with me. And he always obliges. So I thank you for that, Leo, and thank you for sharing the space with me. It's always been an absolute pleasure to continue to have you be part of our journey, as well as us being part of yours. So both Vanessa and Suki are very happy. Wow, thank you. Awesome. And blessings to you all. So it's a goodbye from me.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Priscilla. Thanks,
right,
Leo.
And thank you both, and thank you, everyone.
Okay. Bye-bye. Have a good year.
Yes.
You too.